Are you having trouble finding a welding lens? I get it. Today I'm going to talk about welding lenses, ones that I've used the most, ones that I've used recently, and maybe a couple that you have not heard of yet. At the end of this video, Kayla and I are going to try our hardest to get some footage of me welding through these lenses that I talk about today. That way you can get an idea of the color more than anything. For those of you who may not know, my name is Austin Ross. I've been pipeline welding for about 7 years now, welding since high school, and I absolutely love it. My goal on this channel is to help you, if you're new to the industry, help you get an idea of what it's like out here in the real world, or if you're already in this industry or in the welding industry at all, I want to help you find good products that best meet your welding needs. So if these are things you're interested in, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified when I post a new video every Friday. So what we've got here is an auto darkening singles Arc 1, 2 wens lens. They're fixed lenses, not auto darkening. The singles HD, and then Lincoln's new 2x4 auto darkening lens. So I want to start with this singles lens. I've used it the most in my pipeline welding career, mostly because it's auto darkening, and I didn't know where else to look. I hadn't heard of anything else. I hadn't tried anything else. It's been reliable for me, so I've kept using it. It is an orange color. I get a shade 9, but it's been reliable. You know, I've used probably 6 or 8 of them in the past 7 or 8 years. 90% of them work for a couple of years, but I have had a couple that only worked for a couple of months for whatever reason. But I liked it, really good lens, until I was introduced to the wens lens. I was a little bit leery of it because it's a fixed lens, right? I got used to using the auto darkening lens because auto darkening is nice for back welding. It's nice for welding on pipeline because, you know, you're not supposed to arc outside the bevel. So the auto darkening, it just helps keep you from doing that. So I was a little bit leery, but once I looked through it and got used to it, I can't go back to this. Wens has like 3 different lenses that I know of, but I've only tried these 2. This here is the Ultra Electric Ice. It's a shade 8. It's like a green tint. I really like it compared to this shade 9, the Ultra Blue. And the shade 9, it's a little bit darker, it's obviously darker, it's shade 9, but it's more of a blue color. So the main difference in these 2, the reason I like having both of them, is the number 8 in the green is nice for welding like in a shop or welding under a tent, because with any welding lens, you want to get a lens, like when it comes to a fixed lens, you want to get one that's light enough to where you can see what you're doing with your hood down. That way you can stick your rod in the bevel, not outside the bevel, but in the bevel. And that's what this electric ice allows me to do underneath the tent and stuff. As to where this blue one, the shade 9 in the blue, it's too dark. I can't see what I'm doing underneath the tent. Now out in the sunlight, I can see just fine with this ultra blue, so that's why I like this one. Now it does leave me with a faint, like the faintest little spot for a few seconds, but then it goes away. That's one thing you want to be careful about whenever any lens that you try out. You don't want it to be too bright, because you don't want to ruin your eyes. I mean, that's how you make your money, so take care of your eyes. You want to get a lens that's clear, that the contrast works for your eye color. I've heard blue eyes are sensitive, and that's what I have. They're like more sensitive than the rest of them. I don't know how true that is, but so everybody's going to be different is what I'm saying. You know, you want to get a lens that works for your eyes and that's going to protect your eyes, but still allow you to see what you need to see when making x-ray welds or any type of welding that you're doing in the field that you work in. If you do need prescription, there's either contacts, guys get contacts, or Tom Waters makes these glasses that I wear a lot. They're nice because they fit underneath the pancake. They're real thin, so they fit underneath your pancake, and he will put your prescription in the glasses that you order. That's what's nice about the Tom Waters. So super handy. Another thing I wanted to mention is it's good to have a variety of welding lenses because of different types of welding. You know, your downhill welding usually doesn't require as dark of a lens as to where uphill tends to be more bright for whatever reason. So like whenever I'm running low hydrogen, which is 7018, 8018, I'm gonna want to use this blue, this darker lens, just because it's a little bit more brighter. Or like TIG tends to be way more bright. It's more high frequency, it's more bright than stick welding. So it's good to have a variety. And it's good to have a variety of auto darkening, like I said earlier, because of if you're back welding or you're fabrication on a small inch fabrication or on structural welding, it's good to have auto darkening lens, but it's good to have a fixed lens as a backup to the auto darkening lens in case your auto darkening lens quits working. So that's something I've always all these lenses ride right in my center console, along with a couple others that I've tried over the years. It's always good to have an extra welding lens in your center console, glove box, somewhere in the pickup, just as backup. But that's one of the reasons I personally like a fixed lens, because they're more reliable to me. They're not ever gonna go out. The only way they're gonna go out is if you drop them. So that's why I like a fixed lens. But on to Lincoln's new and improved 2x4 auto darkening lens. I just got this lens. I've used it on one little project. You can see here it says old lens. It's like more of like a yellow, like a dull color than the 4C technology. I don't know, 4C series. I don't know what that means, but it's more clear. Looks a lot like the HD. The little bit that I have welded with it, that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of the HD, which is what I have over here. Some guys that I've talked to that have already used the Lincoln's lens, they say it's better than the HD. I think it looks the same, but I haven't used the HD lens, you know, for a long period of time to really get used to it and then look through the Lincoln. So I don't really know. I just know it reminds me of the HD lens, just to give you an idea, because I know a lot of you have probably used the HD lens. I still personally like the wens. I like looking through. There's something about the blue and the green clarity, like the contrast that brings to the puddle versus the clear. These are very clear and you can see a lot of detail, but there's something about these colored lenses that makes things pop, you know, especially when you're making x-ray weld. You can really see details of what's going on, you know, and it's something about these colors that really allows you to see what's going on inside that puddle. So like I said, I like them, but one more thing I want to mention about the Lincoln lens is it seems like I'm hoping it's just this lens, like, you know, a lemon or whatever, but it took a couple of seconds to go back clear after I stopped welding. Hopefully that's not a huge issue for them, but good lens so far. As far as the clarity, you know, it's definitely good, comparable to the HD. Price point on the Lincoln lens is, I got that shade 9 for $89. I could not find it online yet. I'm sure it'll be online sooner or later. I had to get it at my local welding supply. They do have a variable change lens for those of you that might be interested in something like that. If you can't decide what shade you are, maybe get a variable change. They are $120, I believe, so a little bit higher in price. It's variable. It's a 2x4 lens still, but variable change, and I believe it's solar powered also, so that's real good. But one thing I wanted to mention in this video is clear lenses. For those of you that are new, you might be wondering, how many clear lenses do you use around your welding lens? Do you put one on the inside? I mean, what do you do with clear lenses? You definitely put one on the front of your lens, definitely, bare minimum, but really minimum to me is front and back. For sure, that's minimum, because you do not want to get splatter on your new high-dollar welding lens, and you just want to keep your back of your lens from getting scratched or getting dust on it or whatever. That's minimum. Now, I put 2 clear lenses in front of any lens that I use because of an old habit. When I first started welding, I welded real close to the weld. Like, I got in real close to see what I was doing, and it caused this auto darkening lens to get hot, and it stayed like black. So the guy that actually gave me my first weld test, he told me to put another clear lens in front, and that would help keep it cool, and sure enough, it helped. And I've just been in the habit of doing it ever since, even on a fixed lens. One of the reasons I like it is for whenever you're changing out your clear lens, especially on a pancake hood. These pancake hoods have a spring in here. Some of them come with a metal spring, some of them come with a plastic. I suggest the metal spring just because it stays springy, if you will. And but that spring keeps your lens pressed up against the front, that way it doesn't move around. But since it's pressed up against the front, whenever you're changing out that clear lens, that it can tend to scratch your welding lens, especially these fixed lenses. So I leave a clear lens in there, so whenever I slide that outside clear lens out, it slides up against the other clear lens instead of the welding lens. So, and not only that, but it also acts as an extra clear lens. Say you're out on the right of way without your truck, away from your truck, running beads or on tie-ins, or working off a buggy, and you forgot a clear lens, or you had to work late, you can just take this clear lens off and you still have a brand new fresh clear lens right there waiting on you. So that's another reason I like using 2 clear lenses. One more thing about the wens lens. Price point, $128 plus shipping. You can get, if you order through wens, you can get regular squared corners, or you can get the beveled corners. It's just rounded on the corners. I haven't had any issue in the year. I've had these 2 lenses for about a year now, but I've heard that the ones with the corners tend to like chip off. I don't know why or whatever. I haven't had the issue, but that is one thing that I've heard. And I've heard that sometimes the beveled corners will let light in on some welding hoods. Again, I haven't had any issue with all the hoods that I've tried this lens in. I've had it in a sugar scoop and all my pancakes, and I haven't had any issue with any light coming in, but that is something that I've heard of. So you can get them off of Wens website or PL Welder, both for $128 plus shipping. I personally like using PL Welder just because their website's a little more user friendly. But that's also where I got these little slips. These are lens slips. They're little leather pouches. PL Welder carries them. You can carry your lens in them. Super handy dandy. Keep them in your center console. Keep them from getting scratched up and things like that. So that pretty much covers it for the welding lenses. If you haven't checked out my hood comparison video, I do have a video that I've compared a sugar scoop to a pancake and things like that. You can go check out that video. But until then, let's go ahead and take a look through these welding lenses. All right, did y'all enjoy that footage? I hope you were able to see the difference in the color more than anything. Keep in mind the lighting outside is going to depend on how much you can see outside your puddle. I noticed whenever I was editing this footage that like on the HD lenses, like on the HD and Lincoln's lens, whenever I'm welding with those lenses, I can see outside of that puddle a little more than I could in this footage. A lot of that has to do with camera settings and trying to get the focus on the puddle itself. Without going into too much detail, that's why you couldn't actually see that. But I hope it narrowed it down as far as the color that you might prefer, you know. All these lenses were shade 9 except for the electric ice, it was a shade 8. And that also will depend on what you can see outside of your puddle. You know, if you notice the electric ice, you could see more of what was going on outside the puddle, not just right there in the puddle. But like I said, I hope it narrows it down. Keep in mind that it's kind of a trial and error deal, and it's going to depend on the type of welding whenever picking your welding lens. But I hope this video was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, for starters. For two, let me know what type of welding you do and what lens works best for you. Let us know in the comments so everybody can feed off that information and help each other right here in the YouTube comments. So one more thing I wanted to mention about the Wens lens. Wens is supposed to be coming out with an auto darkening cool blue lens. As soon as I find out about it, I'll let y'all know. But that is going to be it for this video. Word of advice for this week is always be opening to learning new techniques no matter how long you've been welding. The world's changing, the industry is changing, products are changing, so always be willing to try new techniques. Not saying you have to claim them, but always be willing to try them. And also, like always, learn something every day, and we will see you next Friday.